GBU Friday night live. We're about a ton of different stuff today. Shakeups in the NFL, MLB free agency, Yankees, Mets. So much to talk about. Finally back in the swing of full sports season. MLB ramping up. Spring training started today. NFL free agency and trades have all been going crazy. We had a couple big ones in the last 24 hours. Probably the biggest ones aside from the Russell Wilson move. JD and Reese in the house today. Lenny will be with us later. How are you guys today?
Yeah, I'm excited. This has been a sick NFL free agency, and there's still a lot to go. Big moves just recently happened. I'm excited to talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL last night, it is crazy. It is total chaos right now in the NFL. We'll talk about it all coming up here in just a second.
So just now breaking news from Schefter is that the Jets offensive line coach was arrested for DUI today.
I mean,
Salah's, the culture that Salah's built is clearly just having such an effect on his coaching staff's morale decisions. But that's not important. I don't think anyone is here to listen to us talk about, what's his name, John Benton, his DUI arrest. Benton. So today we had big news. Last night we had the Devontae Adams trade, but today Deshaun Watson pulled an Uno reverse and picked the Cleveland Browns. Got 3 first-round picks back to Houston, a conditional 5th, and also a 3rd. Deshaun Watson in arguably the best division now in the AFC, and maybe in the NFL in that AFC North. We've talked a lot about, can the Bengals do it again? We know the Browns were looking to move on from Mayfield. It seemed like they were kind of out on the Watson running. So I want to hear your thoughts on this move and maybe any concerns you could have, or just anything that you consider in Cleveland with this move.
Yeah, the Browns are obviously, I think, the best team that he was choosing from. I know he had Atlanta, who he could have went home to, Carolina, who really wants to go to Carolina, and the Saints, who without Sean Payton, Dennis Allen's a fine coach, but I think the situation in Cleveland for him is better. But we know the real reason why the Browns came back into the sweepstakes today, because of that contract that they offered him. $240 million guaranteed over 5 years is absurd. That is like an MLB contract. I'm sure the Saints and Falcons didn't offer him that. And I think the worst package for Houston might have been the Browns. We'll have to see after the trade's done, because the trade's not even final yet. Or it is final. Is it final?
It's finalized, but we'll see.
I think it's official.
I don't know if it's final, but the package we know is 3 firsts, a 3rd, and a 5th. I feel like I feel like Atlanta had to have given more, especially they have the 7th pick in the draft. I think that would have been valuable for Houston, but they still got a haul. The Browns are committing the next many, many years to Deshaun Watson because of the guaranteed money. They don't have a first-round pick the next 3 years. Their roster's in a good spot. They still need probably a wide receiver too. They added Amari. They have Chubb and Hunt. Their defense is great, as we know, but best fit, another wild card team in the AFC, because I still think the Ravens are a little bit better than the Browns, but we'll see. The AFC is loaded. Yeah. It really is.
Yeah. Baker coming over here just added to Watson coming over here just added to all of the AFC quarterbacks that are all like going to be great next year. I was shocked by this trade because you see every reporter tweeting out that it's just Saints Panthers. It's who is he going to pick? Saints, Panthers, Falcons. I narrowed it down. I wasn't even worried about him coming to the AFC, and then we're sitting there, and you just see that Watson's going to the Browns. He's going to the AFC. That offense is going to be sick, along with Myles Garrett on the other side of the ball. I think the Browns are going to be really good next year, and they might give the Ravens a run for their money at the division, depending if Watson
and the Bengals. I didn't even mention the Bengals before that.
I love how they made the Super Bowl, and we're almost ruling them out. I really think
I'm ruling them out. After
don't sleep on Pittsburgh with Trubisky either, because Mike Tomlin still is the best coach in that division by far. They still have T.J. Watt, who, right with Myles Garrett, are the 2 best players in that division. So I don't sleep on any of these teams could win that division. But I want to touch on my thoughts on the AFC. Obviously, as a Jets fan, we're trying to get back into the playoffs after over a decade now of not being in the playoffs, officially 10 years without a playoff appearance. And they seem to be building in the right direction, but we're going to talk about that later. Just my thoughts on the AFC as a fan of the AFC, not as a Jets fan here. There's 9 of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL are arguably AFC starters. excluding Aaron Rodgers and now Brady because Brady's back.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers a lot later as well. No Brady today. Sorry to the Brady.
He doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve it.
We haven't even talked about it, but I don't.
Yeah, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
There's 8 quarterbacks that are. Josh Allen is, my opinion, he's the best in the AFC, but him and Mahomes are right there with each other. There are 8 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the league in 2 divisions in the AFC.
That division, the AFC North.
Crazy.
If you think about it, though, that plays like Jets fans, Dolphins fans, Patriots fans, and then AFC South fans are very lucky today because you're not playing those guys. Those guys are playing each other. I think the Jets get the Browns next year in a game, and
we play a good amount of good AFC quarterbacks. Russell Wilson, I know.
Yeah, it's just, and we get Russell Wilson as well. Yeah, so those are the 2 we get, but. All 8 of these teams, these are not going to be the top 8 teams in the AFC. I think people need to realize that. I'd be shocked if 5 of these teams were the top 5 teams because someone's going to get hurt. Unfortunately, that's the reality of it. Someone's going to get hurt. Somewhere it's just not going to work. I mean, Russ was in Seattle last year. They won 4 games. I'm sure they're going to win more than that in Denver, but maybe Hackett's a bad head coach. Staley with the Chargers, we could see that go south this year. Someone can go 0-6 in division games because of how good the division opponents are. That's just the reality of the situation. So I think teams like Miami and New England, especially that are still, and Indianapolis and Tennessee, who will be playing for wild card spots, they hope because they were close last year. If not, they got it like New England. Still aren't too worried because they have to win their division games. They don't have to beat Herbert, Carr, and Russell and Mahomes 6 times a year like Russell Wilson does. If I was in that division, I'd be petrified of next season and the next 2 or 3 years. But not being in that division, you should just be worried about the teams in your division. I wouldn't look too much into, because once we get to the playoffs, we know anything can happen. I wouldn't look too much into how great those 2 divisions are. Here's a great question from Lenny. Better division, AFC North or AFC West? Personally, I think the West is, and I'll hear your guys' thoughts, and then we'll segue right into what the Raiders have done the last week, and especially with Devontae Adams. But what do you guys think, AFC North or AFC West?
I gotta think AFC West. The fall off is Trubisky for me. There's 4 star-studded quarterbacks in that AFC West division. I don't think, especially the Raiders adding Tay and the Broncos just being the offensive powerhouse that they're going to be with those 2 running backs. I really think that the AFC West is better.
Yeah, it's the AFC West, and I don't even think the Steelers are going to be that bad, but it's just they're like the weak link out of the team. So there's 3 real elite teams in the AFC North and 4 real good teams in the AFC West, real elite teams in the AFC West. We'll see on the Raiders. I think that they can make the playoffs, but that division's loaded. The AFC West needs to be primetime every week.
This
at least
is
one primetime game.
They will be, except for the Chargers, because everyone else has really good fan bases there, but the Chargers will get them because they're playing the other teams.
Does Mike Tomlin break his 500 streak here?
I don't think so.
Because
they won 9 games and made the playoffs last year. Trubisky's going to be better than Roethlisberger was last year. I guarantee it.
I don't know how many games they're winning.
I think Pittsburgh can win that division still. I do.
I don't think so. I love Mike Tomlin, and I love what the
I don't think Trubisky's that good.
I just don't see how they beat the other.
Roethlisberger was so bad last year.
You're right.
He was so bad.
You're right.
But my betting favorite for that division is the Ravens every time. I love the Ravens when they're healthy.
Yeah. But I think Lamar, it's the best quarterback. The best quarterback is Watson, Burrow, or Lamar. I think it's Lamar. I don't know.
I think it's Lamar. I'd go Lamar.
Right now, it's Lamar. If Watson plays great, top 3 next season,
we have to see Deshaun play again.
Yeah. Something we don't realize with Lamar too is he's got a better winning percentage since coming into the league than Rodgers and Mahomes. Is he better than Rodgers and Mahomes? No, but he's
the Raiders.
Lamar wins games when he's on the field, and he's great. It's not like Garoppolo wins games because his team's great and his coach is great. Lamar wins games when he's on the field. I'm excited to watch that division though next year. I hope the Pittsburgh Steelers are in last place because I hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I don't know. I can't. The
Miles Jack signing was nice. That defense is real nice.
And they can add playmakers. They can add playmakers throughout this offseason. They got James Daniels at right guard, who, just to touch on quick, seemed like the best interior lineman in free agency. 24 years old,
3 years too.
He got a really cheap deal. I almost feel like there's something that we didn't know about with this, because Joe Douglas, who I know I defend him a lot, and I know it could come off as me praising him, but I really try not to praise him. At least to me, I don't praise him yet, but I definitely defend him. He does the due diligence thing on every guy. He didn't really get interested in Daniels ever.
Yeah.
So I just feel like there's something that we don't know about this.
You have those two guards. Those are like your two. I mean, unless you're moving one of them to play. I don't know who you're playing at center.
We have those two guards, but I thought
I
thought Daniels was better than Tomlinson because of his age and because he was a true right guard for the last few years. And I love Tomlinson still, but I don't know. There's got to be something there that he got $8 million a year. That was a big surprise to me. $8 million a year. Let's move on here to the Raiders. We'll talk about the Devontae trade. We're obviously going to touch on the Packers a lot on that side of it, but let's start with the Raiders side. The Raiders definitely had the fourth best quarterback in the AFC West coming into the week. My hot take on the show is Carr with Devontae Adams is the third best quarterback in this division. I trust the Raiders offense more than Russell Wilson's offense in Denver until I see it. I think it's going to be fun to watch with Hackett, especially because of what he did with Rodgers the last few years. But I think Derek Carr got so much better. And we can't just forget about the Chandler Jones signing either. This team was in the playoffs last year. They got Chandler Jones and Devontae Adams in the last 24 hours or 48 hours. Thoughts on this move? And then, JD, we're going to go into talking about the Packer side after. But for the Raiders, what does this mean, and what does this mean for the projection of the AFC West landscape?
The Raiders definitely – so we'll talk about the Packers' return in the trade and their side of it in a second. But the Raiders, for a first and a second, that's an absolute win. You get the best receiver in football. You lock him up, 28 a year, 28.2 a year. He's got a bunch of guaranteed money. He's in his 30s. But we all know he's the best receiver. The Raiders get a lot better. And I do agree, KB, I think this moves them ahead of the Broncos. It's going to be tough. It really is. That division is insane. It can go any way. We'll see Russell Wilson with Hackett in Denver. I'm not completely sold. And I'm not completely sold on the Raiders too, but I think this makes Derek Carr an insanely better quarterback. And their weapons too, Darren Waller and Renfro. That might be the best trio of pass catchers in football. That is a great offense. They have Josh Jacobs. The offensive line, they got to shore up a little bit. They missed on a few draft picks, and they let go of Rodney Hudson, their best center. So I think with Chandler Jones, it's an upgraded defense. It's an upgraded offense. The Raiders definitely got better. So we'll see. I think the Devontae trade for them is an absolute win. And I hope he does well in Vegas, but we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I mean, there was a reason that the Raiders gave up the little amount that they did. They knew that Tay had the leverage. They knew he didn't want to come back and knew he wanted to play with his former college quarterback. So the Packers did a good job here, but I'm not touching on that yet. I think this puts them over the Broncos as well. Darren Waller, Renfro, and Devontae Adams is one of the most insane trios I've heard of.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there a better trio of pass catchers?
If Derek Carr isn't at an MVP level this year, then in my opinion, that's a disappointment, especially in their division.
They're going to extend him too, so they need him. They need him.
They're clearly recognizing what's going on in their division, and they're doing everything in their power in order to compete with all of these teams. I think they're going to be interesting, especially if the Chiefs' defense doesn't play consistent like they did last year.
Yeah. KB, what are your thoughts for the Devontae?
I look at that division, right? I know J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack got added to the Chargers defense, but there is not a defense in the league that can stop the Raiders offense. A defense in that division that can stop the Raiders offense now, in my opinion. I don't think there's maybe one or two in the league. Yeah, maybe like Tampa at their best and the Rams at their best could do it, but
J.C. Jackson was a big signing now because he gets Tyreek twice a year. He gets Devontae twice a year. And whoever Denver throws out there, they have a good receiving core as well.
Yeah, so, they still have Judy and Sutton, right? They didn't give up.
Yeah,
they give up Sutton. That's it.
Yeah, well, I tell you what's going to happen with that offense. Tim Patrick is going to rise up. He is going to shoot up in stock because Judy I don't love in that offense now with Russ. I love him as the 3, as a underneath receiver, but Sutton and Tim Patrick are going to have big years. JD knows with Hackett, a lot of run heavy. I think Javonte Williams has a monster season next year for them. He was really, really good last year. He was arguably the best rookie back. Najee got the love, but Javonte Williams was right there. I think that I just don't think there's a defense. But like you said, JD, so J.C. Jackson, let's talk about that for a minute. And Khalil Mack was added. But on the topic of J.C. Jackson, his easiest assignment every season's going to be Cortland Sutton getting the ball from Russell Wilson. So he's probably not going to have a good year. But he's going to limit the damage.
He's going to grab a few.
Better than anyone. He's definitely going to grab a few because he's going to be on those guys all game. He's going to limit the damage done to the Chargers defense by those receivers because God knows anyone else on them is just going to get torched these are three of the
even Renfro and Waller, that is a scary trio of pass catchers. And the other kid from USC, his name is blanking me right now, but he's a good young
team.
The Raiders.
Edwards?
Edwards, yeah. He's a good young receiver too. So they have a real got trio.
A great I trust problem. That offense is a problem.
I know that I've been critical of Josh McDaniels' play calling in New England. I think he's a very conservative play caller, but I also think that's Belichick's desire.
I mean, what weapons are on?
But exactly. I think Brady called that offense when he was there. I don't think there's any denying that. But I trust his ability. And how about this guy Ziegler at GM from New England? I mean, he comes in and he has just opened the checkbook, man, for this. Devontae got 28.5 a year. We're going to talk in a second about the Packers side of it and him leaving the Packers. But Drew actually just made a great point that I wanted to bring up. Asante Samuel is going to break out this season as well because he was really good last year. He doesn't have to get Tyreek and Sutton and Devontae. But I'm excited to watch McDaniels, what he does with that team. Yeah. Worst red zone offense in the NFL last year, or bottom 5 in the NFL last year. It was not the worst. I think it was 29th. And they add Devontae, who you can't get a better player in the red zone because of how easily he gets separation. And Renfro, same type of guy, great number 2. And Waller, it's gonna be fun to watch these teams next year, no doubt. But let's pivot.
Wait, one last thing. Tay will get arrested for DUI by August. That is generally how it trends for the
how
Raiders.
It goes with the Raiders. Yeah. So let's pivot now. Packers side of things. Aaron Rodgers comes back. You'd have to assume that means Devontae is going to be back with him. But I guess the last dance thing last year was true. I think they knew for a while. And it definitely sounds like they knew for a while that if Rodgers was gone, Devontae was gone. If Rodgers was back, Devontae was also gone. He didn't want to stay with the Packers. Packers reportedly at least were willing to offer more money per year, maybe more total money as well, to keep him around. I said a couple of weeks ago, and I've been trying to find the clip. I didn't have a ton of time to search through today, but from 3 weeks ago, long video about we did the QB debates, and my flaw on Rodgers in the playoffs, the reason I attribute his failure or shortcomings is because of his inability to look away from Davante Adams at times, which is understandable because of how trustworthy Adams is all regular season. But now I think this Packers offense is it's not going to be better because it was already the best in the league. But in the playoffs, I trust this team a lot more. I think that you can add a guy like Cole Beasley or Jarvis Landry, draft 1 or 2 receivers in the top 2 rounds now. They got a first and a second round pick, reset it before. Packers had no leverage. They knew that Tay was leaving for a near $30 million contract, so no one's trading up big picks for it, more than the big picks that the Packers got. So,
and now they're giving Rodgers.
And now they're giving Rodgers the huge deal as well. So, JD, your thoughts on this? I know you're going to have a lot to say.
Yeah. The Rodgers, I just want to say before it starts, the Rodgers deal, I think we all know this. Some people don't. The Rodgers deal had no effect on what happened with Davante Adams. Him taking however much money he did had no effect. He's not the reason Davante left. Simply, he's an all-time great Packers receiver. He's going to be in the Packers Hall of Fame in a few months. But sunny, warm Vegas, where he's from, his childhood team, I think he just wanted to change the scenery. He was done with Green Bay. There's no state tax in Vegas. There is in Green Bay. It's cold. It's probably miserable in the winter. He doesn't win as much, but he's already accomplished pretty much everything except a Super Bowl ring. I don't think he'll get one in Vegas, but you never know. They have a real nice team. The Packers return, if you're looking at it, like just seeing it for Davante Adams, a first and a second is not that much. But in the circumstances where they franchise tagged and they really had no leverage. And they flipped potentially losing him for nothing, which would have been a third-round comp pick, into a first and second in this draft, number 22 and 53 or 54, I believe. They have 4 picks in the top 60. It's all about how Gutekunst drafts now. And Rodgers is on board. We know that because he knew when he was signing his contract that Devontae wasn't going to be here. So him and Rodgers, they're going to pick the next few wide receivers who are coming in here. Like you said, Kibi, I really like Landry. I think Landry's realistic. I think Cole Beasley's also realistic. There's a few dream scenarios I'd really love, like DK Metcalf for our 2 first. I'd trade it in an instant for DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett would be a nice pickup. There's guys in the trade market, Robert Woods, who they're not going to trade us him. They're definitely not going to trade us him, Robert Woods, but you can dream about that. There's options to improve. They're going to. I don't think they add Julio. Will Fuller probably follows Watson to Cleveland, although the Packers have liked Fuller recently. So the big hole is wide receiver, but they're getting 2 picks. They have 11 picks in the draft. That's a ton of picks. They're generally good at drafting every year. They get $20 million in cap space. They free that up. They're going to bring back Douglas. Their defense is loaded. You draft one more interior D lineman to help Kenny Clark, or you sign one, and you're off and running on defense. That's a top 5 defense. They have one of the best trio of corners. To me, after the initial shock of the trade, it's not that bad because now they can use that cap space. They can use those picks. They can bolster the depth. They're going to bolster the O-line. They're going to run the ball. Finally, they're going to run it a lot with A.J. Dillon. It's definitely going to be different, the offense, but I don't know. I'm optimistic. They're obviously a worse team today than they were a few days ago or 24 hours ago, and Tampa's better, and the Rams are better. They signed Allen Robinson and lost Von Miller, but that offense is great. So they're all going to be there. Watson didn't come to the NFC, which was a shock, so that's good. There's ways for this team to be the 1 seed again and win 13 games without Devontae. They were 7-0 under LaFleur without him. So they're not a better team, but it's not the end of the world in Green Bay. Metcalf is a nut job. He is insane. You give your first, you give a second for him. He is your wide receiver 1. You're going to pay him, but you're going to pay him less than Devontae, so you could probably afford it. We know that they were going to give him close to $30 million, so there's going to be avenues where now they can improve with that cap space because they're not going to just sit on their hands with Lazard and Cobb going into week 1. They're going to draft someone. Their only wide receiver under contract past this year is Amari Rodgers. That's terrible. You need long-term solution at wide receiver. They're going to draft 2 or 3 wide receivers, maybe not all in the first round, but they are definitely going to draft a wide receiver in the first round and then probably a few more in the 3rd, 4th, whenever. They need guys long-term. They need guys short-term. There's a lot of options in free agency, but I'm optimistic, and I think the draft is going to be real exciting. I really do. And we may even package them to move up and take London, take Garrett Wilson.
Yeah, and I think that what's that Raiders pick?
22. So they're at 22 and 28. They're not.
One of those top 5 receivers are going to be there. Olave Burks or Jameson Williams will be there.
Unfortunately, I said the same thing, bring back Jordy, but it's not happening. He's on that farm out in Kansas.
What about Odell? Because we know the Rams signed.
Yeah, I like that.
The only thing I think keeps Odell from going, aside from a possible Rams resign, well, I don't even know about the injury because I think the Packers can get him for
the Packers like him
and get him for second. But I think the only thing is because he apparently felt insulted by their offer last year when he was released. And that's why he didn't go. I don't know if I believe that report, but if it's true, if he's holding that grudge because they offered him a vet minimum, then he might.
Realistically, we couldn't even afford more than vet minimum.
Exactly. So it wasn't like a huge deal. But here's some of the top guys available.
They do like him a lot, though, and I don't think they will.
Jarvis and LBJ reunion.
That was something I've thought about, but I don't see it happening. The Packers just aren't going to do that.
It's a stretch, but
name-wise, these are a couple of the top free agents. I just want to read them off. Receivers left: Julio, who I don't like, but Julio, Jarvis, Will Fuller, Jamison Crowder, T.Y. Hilton, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, A.J. Green, Sammy Watkins, Odell, Deshaun Jackson, Zach Pascal.
Beasley might be a nice signing.
Beasley would be.
I think he's a stud.
Beasley's respectable in the slot, but they have Cobb, and I think
That's true.
Cobb's going to play a good portion next year. I don't think I still think he's got a little bit left in the tank. I think Lazard's your wide receiver 3, maybe even 2. If you draft one, you could probably have whoever you draft to be wide receiver 3. they're definitely going to sign someone. Unfortunately, wide receiver 1 is not going to be as good as Devontae, even close to as good as Devontae. But you can sign collectively, like not just wide receivers, 3-4 guys who will make a big impact on the team. How about Jarvis? He can be fine. Yeah, I think Jarvis is the most.
He's good.
I think Jarvis is the most likely option, honestly.
So he seemed like he was following Deshaun, and then Deshaun went to the Browns, so he's not going to go back.
Yeah. So I know he talked to the Falcons. The Packers have had interest. They're going to sign someone. I'd be shocked if it's Julio. I would love the idea of Rodgers to Julio, but Julio, I think, has got nothing left in the tank, and he can't stay healthy. And we need guys to be on the field. So I don't see him as an option, really, but I don't know. Landry seems like a real good fit. He's going to be wide receiver 1 right now. I don't like that, but honestly, there's not many options. Allen Robinson's already gone.
I think something that people aren't taking into account is how much the Packers are probably going to run the ball next year with A.J. Dillon.
A lot.
Like it's going to be a run heavy. I know it sounds weird to say Aaron Rodgers is going to be the quarterback of a run heavy offense. It's going to be a run heavy offense. It was last year, and it's going to be more of one this year. I think that's the best way to run it. But yeah, I don't know. I think that A.J. Dillon's going to have a much bigger role than most people realize.
He's going to be that touchdown guy.
I think they're going to run A.J. Dillon, and I think they're going to because Aaron Jones' contract is set up in a way where I honestly think he probably gets cut at the end of this year. He's a cap casualty, especially with Dillon waiting in the wings. They're probably going to extend him. So
better player.
I think they run Aaron Jones into the ground. They really use him a lot this year, along with Dillon. I think they're both going to get 20 touches a game.
Yeah, I think Dillon's just the end zone back. Like when you guys are on the 1 yard line too.
They're also going to get Bakhtiari back. Elton Jenkins, I saw was making good progress. I don't think he's going to be ready for week 1, and we definitely saw what happened last year with Bakhtiari. I don't think they screw that up again. And they cut Billy Turner to save cap space. So I really think Elton Jenkins, when he's healthy, he's your right tackle. And that is a great duo of tackles. And you have Runyon and Josh Myers, 2 real good young studs up the middle at guard and center. I think the offensive line is really good. I think their defense is really good. Sign a few receivers, and they're going to win 13 games again. Because
they really could have the best defense in the NFL next year. If one of those edges fall to them, which
really good.
Something to note from today for draft people, David Ojabo tore his Achilles at Pro Day.
I didn't know he
torn or ruptured. So either way, he's hurt for the start of training camp.
I like the Packers to take an edge too. Ojabo was probably not going to be there at their picks. Now he's definitely going to fall out of the first round. Yeah. So an eye on the second round,
great fit for the Giants in the second round.
And he's a real stud, and it's a shame to see him tear his Achilles Pro Day. But there's going to be a lot of the Packers have a ton of picks in this draft. Their defense, they re-signed officially when they re-signed Rasul. They've got Jair, Stokes, Douglas. That is awesome. The 2 safeties. Amos is great. Savage sometimes is okay. He's not the best. I'd like a 3rd safety. Rashawn Gary is going to have 15 sacks next year. And Preston was great this year. Kenny Clark was great. One more interior D lineman instead of Lowry and Lancaster. And this defense is probably top 5. Realistically, they are. The Campbell deal is awesome. So. The Devontae trade really was out of nowhere. It
opened up a lot for them. They were able to re-sign a lot of guys. But let's go now to the best and worst approaches from free agency. We'll talk about winners and losers of it right after also. But we had teams like Jacksonville go all in, spending all the money they had to try to fill out a roster. I know that guys won't go to play there, so the overpays are understandable. I just thought they could have overpaid for better players. That's my complaint with it. But then we have teams like the Chargers made absolute splashes to turn into a Super Bowl contender. The Jets with a lot of calculated moves to try and start supplementing a roster that they can fill out in the draft and start winning games. Hopefully, if Zach Wilson is good, I think that they've started to build a roster that is up to the standard where if Zach Wilson's bad, it's just because he's bad. We have teams like the Raiders going through trades instead of free agency, and they making a move like Chandler Jones in free agency. So who do you guys think had really good approaches to free agency, and who really should have went in a different direction than they did?
Yeah, Reese, you go first.
All right, so for one of my best, I think it was the Bills. I think the Bills handled their their offseason exactly how a team who's right on the crisp of a Super Bowl should. They backed out of McKinnon. They signed Von Miller, which is obviously huge.
Von Miller signing's huge.
Had to overpay a little bit for him, but now you got a sick D lineman on your team. I liked what they did. They added just some depth positions. Trying to make sure that if anybody does get hurt, there's someone who's good enough to replace them. I think that they handled this perfectly. I don't think there was much better they could have done. Maybe add a running back, but I could see them doing that in the draft. So I think the Bills handled this offseason exactly how they should have.
Yeah, I really liked. I think the Vaughn deal is big. He's probably not going to be there all 6 years, but you're going to get 3 real good years out of him the next few. And he's the definition of a playoff performer. When you need someone to come up in the playoffs, he's going to give you 2-3 sacks. And the Bills, him in Kansas City or at home, wherever they're playing the Chiefs and whoever else they have to play in the playoffs, he's going to wreck games.
Yeah, so I think their run game's going to be a little bit better too, adding O.J. Howard.
Yeah, O.J. Howard was a nice signing. So the Bills did a good job. For me, I have my free agency winners that I'm going to save for later. I think one of the better approaches to free agency for the work that they had to do and the cap spaces they had, honestly, was the Giants. They didn't make a lot of moves. They didn't make a lot of moves, but they signed 2 real respectable O-linemen. And for the cap space they had, they were in the gutter, in the negatives, bottom 5 in cap space. They freed some up. They got some restructures with Shepard and Blake, and then they signed Feliciano, the center, to a 1-year deal.
Glasgow, the right guard.
And yes, and to him to a 2-year deal. And I thought
cut Logan Ryan yesterday.
They did cut Logan Ryan.
He signed with Tampa Bay.
He did sign with Tampa Bay,
as everyone else does.
As everyone else is, yeah.
Mr. Tom's back.
Yeah, I want to talk about the Giants for a second there. The Feliciano deal is awesome because it's a 1-year deal. He could be your starting center for the next few years, though, because you have the most cap space in the NFL next season, right there with Atlanta. The 2 teams have the most cap space, and they added a potential. They have Glasgow for at least 3 years. I'm pretty sure it was a 3-year deal for 22.
Was it two at 14?
If someone can just let us know in the comments what it was. I know the rumored at first was 3 for 22. I never saw whether it was a confirmation after or not. Usually the first rumored deal is not what it happens. Feliciano, I think, will be here beyond year 1 because I think he'll just be really good this year, and they just don't have the money for the long-term deal yet. But he's Dable and Shane.
The Giants are going to have a bunch of cap space next year.
Giants have a load of cap space next year.
There's Len saying it as I said.
And I liked what the Jets did too. I know that people wanted the Marcus Williams of the world and stuff, but one thing that we have to note is who's playing for the Jets over playoff teams? No one. No one's still doing that. So Douglas didn't overpay. He's got to get active in the trade market. He absolutely has to before the draft. That would be where my criticism of him would come this offseason if there's not a big trade made. I know there's been rumors about Danielle Hunter, who I love. The Jets backloaded all of the contracts that they signed. All the contracts they gave out were backloaded. They still have about $35 million in cap space right now, and they entered free agency with 48. So that tells you all you need to know about the, $50, $60 million of contracts they gave out. Everything's backloaded. So that tells me he's keeping room for the potential big trade. Whether or not he pulls the trigger on it is, the big question mark for me. I think a guy that I would love is Robert Woods. You don't have to pay him next year, and he's not going to go for premium picks at all. Fits the offense well. The Rams have to pay him because he's getting all he gets this year is an $8 million prorated signing bonus, which is given to him by the team that trades him, being the Rams. So Jets get him for free for a year. If he stinks, you cut him after the year. All you lose is probably a 4th-round pick. At the very worst, a 3rd, which I still think is worth it because you can get a wide receiver 1 out of this for this system. Yep. But the Jets got to start. Higgs comments that we got to compete with these teams in the AFC. We don't have to compete with the teams in the AFC. We have to compete with the teams in the AFC East, which we have not done. You have to beat Miami. You have to be able to beat Miami and New England during the season.
Yeah,
you have to, because the rosters
are
good. New England is coached by Belichick, and he's the master, and it's a better roster than ours. But the rosters are not good there. You cannot have automatic losses going into division week games every season. You can't.
Yeah, and a lot of these teams in the AFC are a quarterback away. Certain teams that will just become good when you add a star quarterback to them. The Jets right now are not one of those teams anyway.
Yeah.
Joe Douglas is trying to build a team that when you insert an above average quarterback, the team becomes above average. So it's frustrating for some people, some Jets fans that don't get the big names, don't get the big guys. But when you're building a foundation with small signings, big draft picks, that's how a team's going to end up succeeding. That's how you get to that level. But at this point, I think we're approaching that level if we have a top tier draft like we did last year, and that this is a prove it for Wilson.
I was looking back at a couple games from last year for the Jets, and not to go on a Jets absolute tear right now, but there's a few games, like every other team in the league, I know there's a few games in the season that Zach Wilson played really well, and they lost because the defense could not stop a nosebleed. And there's a few games early in the season where the defense was on fire the first 4 or 5 weeks, and Zach Wilson couldn't put the ball in the end zone. So I'd love to see them add Robert Woods, add a receiver at 10, and we have 9 draft picks in the draft probably after you trade for Robert Woods.
Yep.
That would be 8 defensive players and a wide receiver at 10. But last year's free agency might look great after this year, dude. Get over last year's free agency.
But what about last year's draft? We drafted
last year's draft was
4 or 5 stars.
I want to just chime in here. I want to just chime in and say something. And I know you guys will probably dispute this, but just as a non-Jets fan, the way I feel is like, yeah, they're probably not going to compete with the top dogs in the AFC, but I still don't think they move the needle enough to even compete with the Bills or the Patriots, honestly.
If Douglas definitely not Buffalo.
Not the
There's
Bills.
nothing they can do to compete with Buffalo. If
Bills
Douglas has a draft like he had last year, last year's draft is so flawed because the absolute headliner of it is Zach Wilson. And if Wilson's not good, the draft isn't good. That's just the way it gets looked at. If he has a draft like last year's because he's not taking a quarterback, they'll be able to at least win 2 games on Miami, which is a starting point. It's a starting point. But
I don't even can they win both games on Miami?
No, but they'll be talented enough to do it. That's all I'm saying. They'll be talented enough. And if Saleh can get it together, they could hopefully steal a home game from New England.
I need to see the Jets defense put it together. That's really what we need to see this season.
I'll tell you what, dude. Mike McDaniel's a fun guy. If Saleh doesn't sweep this guy next year, I'm ready to fire him myself because this guy is the biggest narp ever. He's never played a sport in his life. He goes on everything joking. He's going to sweep us, though. I know how it's going to go. But I think that Douglas is
stud.
Douglas, whether his time here works out or not, he shares my philosophy, which is why I defend him, which is the philosophy that all of the great teams in the NFL use to build. You just have to hit on the right players. JD, you know it with Green Bay if you really look at it.
And they're going to have to do it again this year, too.
Green Bay's been great because you just draft every year. You're hitting in the 3rd and 4th round every year, getting starters. You're not getting superstars there. But the guys like Amari Cooper, guys like Marcus Williams, guys like Devontae Adams, first of all, would they play here? Second of all, are they the guys that are that guy over – I'll just to put the money in example. You trade a 5th for Amari Cooper or a 4th for Amari Cooper. He's making $20 million. You lose 3 or 4 good starters that you could add to the defense with Amari Cooper. I'd rather draft a wide receiver at 10 than do that for the Jets. For Cleveland, it's a good move because Amari Cooper could be the guy that now with Watson sparks the offense and really gets you over the top of the AFC teams. But for the Jets, they're not in that spot to make those moves right now. I need to see them at a really competitive 6 or 7 wins. And then next year, I'll be saying, now you got to go all in because now you got to start competing. But Douglas is definitely giving me confidence to where in 2 years, he could have built a team like Denver or maybe, Indianapolis or where it's just like, man, Zach Wilson's just not the guy to win with this team, but we have the pieces here to win. I think that's the direction they're moving in, but I don't have the confidence in Zach Wilson until I see it.
No, I agree. And when you look at our signings, you mentioned it before to me that there 4 of them are Super Bowl starters. And a lot of the guys, I think every guy that we signed on defense is a run stopper. Almost everyone. DJ Reed was probably, I think he was the number 1 PFF against the run. I think Whitehead was number 1 or 2 against the run for his position. So clearly Douglas and Saleh see the weak point in the defense, and they're trying to figure that out. I also think that they're clearly going to go secondary after seeing all the run stoppers that they signed. That at some point, I don't know if it's going to be Hamilton. I don't know if it's going to be Gardner. I don't really know who it's going to be, but it's clearly going to be someone.
My final notes here, and then I'll let you guys say whatever you want. We'll move on from the Jets. I want to talk about Jacksonville and the Chargers. We'll move, but my final notes here is one. I think there's a real possibility that the Jets could go edge and Jordan Davis with their first 2 picks at 4 and 10 if they don't want to take a receiver there, because Zach Wilson's not throwing for 4,000 yards next year. I think that Jordan Davis is a guy that could plug into this defensive line very well, because we do need that interior run stuffer. And second point that I want to make is my final thoughts on Wilson. You have the offensive play caller in LaFleur. You have the offensive line now. You are going to have a good enough receiving core and good enough running backs. And the additions of the 2 tight ends is so important, because aside from offensive line, running back and tight ends are by far the most important positions in a quarterback's development, because those are the players that are closest to the quarterback on every play, running the easiest routes. A running back or a tight end is open every single play in the NFL. So adding those 2 tight ends, big for Wilson's development. It's at a point now where if he can't get the ball in the receiver's hands and into these tight ends' hands, or if he can't move the ball, it's on him. It's not on our GM like it was with Mike McCagnon with Sam Darnold. That's my final point, and then whatever you guys want to say it, and we'll move on to Jacksonville and the Chargers.
Yeah, I just got I'll just finish up. You guys mostly talked about everything there is with the Jets. I think closing thoughts, they're having a good offseason. Their signings have been good. They've got a bunch of draft picks coming up. So you got to hit on those, especially the first round picks, the late round picks. You got to hit on those.
Or in the top 40. If you keep all 4, you better hit on all.
I think one more trade in the trade market, whoever it is, even I don't know, this might be like fantasy football kind of thinking, but Christian McCaffrey, I feel like it's just an awesome safety blanket. And they got Conklin and Uzama, who were safety blankets, and they'll help Wilson. But just McCaffrey can do everything out of the backfield. And I know Michael Carter's there. But he can't. I don't know if he can be the engine of the offense.
Michael Carter is the perfect type of weak. If think about James Conner in Arizona, a guy like James Conner will be awesome with him, because he can be the bell cow. But Carter is really good at splitting those snaps and getting those third downs. McCaffrey, just so everyone knows, the Jets have called Carolina to talk Christian McCaffrey. I believe they already did with DJ Moore, but now he's out. He got his extension. So they have talked about McCaffrey with the Panthers. If you traded for Christian McCaffrey, likely doesn't take any more than 1 third-round pick. If that, he only makes $8 million next year for the team that trades for him, and he can be cut with no cap hit after next season.
It seems like Carolina is going to keep hang on to CMC, maybe draft someone this year.
Rule's trying to keep his job. I don't know if you can get rid of your best player.
They cannot run Sam Darnold back out there.
Darnold's making so bad, $18 million.
The Panthers are in a bad
They extended him before he stepped on the field. That was not a good move for them. That was not a good move, because he was never going to be better than average there if he was
never. I don't think he was even going to be better than Teddy B.
I never thought. I thought the Tannehill thing was such a load of crap, because everyone was like, "Oh, he moved on from Gase." Well, he moved to Derrick Henry, and Tannehill wasn't a turnover machine with the Dolphins. He just wasn't a great quarterback, and he still really isn't a great. He's one of those PFF studs, but we see his flaws every time they play a big game. Now, what about them? Can they? Do we think that? Let's talk about Jacksonville. Do we think Jacksonville can make a run at the AFC South this year? I think Lawrence obviously would need a breakout season for that, and we'll see if that happens. But that division's far and away the weakest, maybe in the NFL right now. And a loaded AFC, where even the AFC East is a good division with New England and Buffalo, and then you have 2 young teams hoping they get better with the Jets and the Dolphins. But the Colts, probably Baker Mayfield at this point is going to be their quarterback.
Or Matt Ryan.
I think Matt Ryan stays in Atlanta now. Now that just because
I just feel like that's going to make it sour there.
Unless Matt Ryan,
it's got to be awkward, right?
Unless Matt Ryan goes to Indy and Baker goes to Atlanta in some 3-team trade, but that's probably not going to happen now. I think Mayfield for the Colts is nice, but I do think the Jags can win a few games and maybe compete in this division next year. I think I like the Jags. I really like some of their signings. They overpaid for a good portion of the guys, but that's what you got to do. That's what you have to do to get them to come play in Jacksonville.
Scherf's a great signing if he stays on the field. If you check out our Instagram, we did our best and worst free agent signings. All 4 of us had Jacksonville free agents. 2 of us had Christian Kirk. I had Scherf just because of his health. I thought there were better options at guard, but it is what it is. He's the best guard of that free agency class if he's healthy. Yeah. But I don't know. This is a tough one for me. The situation was as bad as a Gase situation for Darnold. But, man, Trevor Lawrence didn't, show me anything that makes me think he's going to break out this year. He's going to be better.
There was one game I saw
He was good against the Colts.
Yeah,
both times they played him, actually. And he was good against Miami in their first win. But I think these are not really good wide receivers. Forget about the contract. Kirk's not a great wide receiver. Kirk's a burner. Kirk's a burner, and he's good at getting open downfield, but he's not a great wide receiver. I don't think he's – if I did a list right now of top 20, I don't think he's in it.
No. Close, in my opinion. But one of the signings that I just wanted to touch on this that surprised me was DJ Chark. I'm really surprised he chose to go to the Lions on a 1-year deal, especially if you're trying to have a prove-it deal. Wouldn't you want to go to a team with a quarterback?
I think he probably could have got.
I think he could have gotten that same amount from other teams, and
not with
more.
3 or 4. I think
DJ Chark 3 years, $30 million. I feel like that would be.
Yeah, I think if Zay Jones got 3 years, $30 million, that he should. But I don't think anyone besides Jacksonville was handing out those contracts, and for some reason they didn't like DJ Chark and chose to go with Kirk, who is he's a
good,
fine wide receiver, but for the money they're paying him, I don't even think their offense improved that much. Same with Zay Jones. I don't think he changes the Jaguars, to be honest. He's a nice, solid receiver. I'm sure Doug Peterson likes him, but I don't think he changes much for them.
Yeah. So this is just on the topic of Kirk. The PFF's top 25 receivers going into 2022 NFL season, the top 21 are undoubtedly better than Christian Kirk. Mike Evans is their 21st. He'd be higher on my list, but 17 is DeAndre Hopkins, Jalen Waddle, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Mike Evans. Those are their leading up to 21. This is 22 to 25. Brandon Cooks, better than Christian Kirk. Devontae Smith, better than Christian Kirk. Darnell Mooney.
I'll give Kirk the edge.
I'd give Kirk the edge there at 24. And then 25, they have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I put Kirk at 24th best receiver in the NFL. That's not the 3rd highest paid receiver in the NFL. No, now 4th. Yeah. No chance.
Yeah, that's bad. That's bad.
Who else they got? I really like Foy Luke on defense at middle linebacker. Really hard hitter, fast linebacker, led the league in tackles last year. Good signing. Overall, though, just with Doug Peterson's good. I like the pairing of him with Lawrence. They're getting ETN back, so they're going to have ETN and Robinson as a nice duo next year if they hold on to both, which I think they should. But Trent Baalke, he's not going to hit on a draft.
Yeah,
he hasn't.
He really is.
Fadakasi, good signing too. Gave him a little too much money, but you got to do it. I really like Fadakasi a lot. Trent Baalke hasn't been a GM for 5 seasons. He has not hit on a draft pick. He's been the Jags for 1. He's with San Fran.
You should just take Hutchinson. Just take Hutchinson 1.
Yeah.
You have Josh Allen, Hutchinson,
here's my thoughts on this. I'd take Hutchinson, but you got to be tempted with Doug Peterson as the offensive coach. Lawrence cannot be bad for them. If he ends up being a bust, this franchise is never going to be good. It's one of those types of draft pick.
Yeah.
Even the Jets have leeway with Zach Wilson coming off. Have more leeway for Zach Wilson sucking than going with the back-to-back terrible quarterbacks than they do missing on Trevor Lawrence. You just cannot miss on Trevor Lawrence because of how the tank situation was last year, and you guys understand. I don't have to explain it, but you got to be interested in adding Evan Neal or Kwanu to just lock down right tackle, so you'd have a left tackle, right guard,
and they probably
center secured. They can. I take Hutchinson because
I think they go Hutch.
I don't know though. It's tough. It's definitely a tough one with that.
And I
Doug Peterson
love that because most years you have those locked in number one picks, and this year you can have a number one pick that just throws a wrench in the whole draft. What does Detroit do if Hutchinson goes 1? Do they take a quarterback? Do they trade down?
And Detroit had the worst pass rush in the NFL last year, so very interesting now, possibly losing on Hutchinson.
And I can't wait for the draft.
Yeah, this is definitely the most uncertain top few picks.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I did want to touch on one more bad free agency. I really think that the Commanders had the worst in the NFL. I think it was horribly embarrassing. I don't think there was one good signing. You trade for Carson. You trade for Carson Wentz. They signed Cam Sims, J.D. McKissick, and Troy Apke, or however.
Yeah, they did not.
Don't sleep on Apke, man.
Come on, dude.
They did
How
not.
is that improving? I feel like they just might have gotten worse.
I put Troy Apke at middle linebacker against Drew in Madden. I traded for Apke, put him at middle linebacker. He's a free safety. He's got 99 speed. Put him at middle linebacker and run any linebacker blitz that you know a hole's going to be open. I had 5.5 sacks with 67 overall free safety Troy Apke. And the whole game, Drew's screaming, "Who is this guy? Who is
Madden legend. Madden legend.
Madden legend. Great user, Troy Apke. You want to go to free safety on every preseason. You want to go to free safety and send a 7th for Apke and put him at middle linebacker. Anyways, what were we talking about?
But Washington.
Commanders, terrible rebrand. Terrible quarterback now. Terrible. At least they're the NFC, though. I mean, would you be shocked if they were the 6 or 7 seed and Wentz had a decent year? I really wouldn't.
The NFC.
Because the NFC, but
the NFC just sucks.
Just everything about them right now is just terrible. Their name, their stadium, their black uniforms are fine, but their other ones are like, why are we even changing it up? It's bad. The definition of the Commanders is they get Carson Wentz, they change their quarterback, and their Super Bowl odds do not change. So that tells you all you need to know. They're still the same middle of the pack, 6, 7, 8 win team with Carson Wentz, and they gave up some picks, not premium picks, but they gave up 2 third-round picks, and they're investing a lot of money into Carson Wentz when they were shooting for the stars for Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson, and walked away with neither and had a pretty bad free agency. So
we're moving
they're
into
definitely
free agency
a loser.
Winners and losers here. So I want to hear your guys' winners and losers. And we already just talked about the Commanders without actually formally going into the topic. So who else do we have? Winners and losers. I got a couple fun ones. So I want to hear what you guys have first.
I have my one real winner, and then I'll pass it to you, KB. I think we've talked about it already, and we talked about J.C. Jackson. I really like what the Chargers did. I thought Joseph Day, knowing Staley, not even having to move, giving him that 3-year deal was a real nice move. I liked J.C. Jackson. You have your number one corner to try and compete with Tyreek and Devontae, and you have Asante Samuel. So it's a real nice secondary. And Khalil Mack wasn't a free agent, but they did trade a 2nd and 6th for him. So I'll just make him an honorable mention. So I really like the offseason and the free agency that the Chargers had. I think they compete next year, but that division's tough. Higgy said Steelers winners. Yeah, the Steelers, I don't mind Trubisky too. They're another winner.
I don't know if
I like Miles Jack.
Steelers might be more of a loser for me just because, and they had a good, don't get me wrong.
I think they're a better team though.
They're a better team, but two of my winners are Cincinnati for improving their offensive line with Kappa and Karras. And they'll probably do more. I think they're going to get Lyle Collins after June 1st.
Yep, I agree.
And also, Baltimore is my biggest winner, aside from the Chargers. JD, you touched on the Chargers. Because they got Marcus Williams in their secondary. They added offensive line. They're getting all their guys healthy again. I think Baltimore did. Yeah, they
if they signed Big Z, they were.
So do we see anything with that?
No.
All I saw was that he backed out.
He backed out, and no one knows the reason.
News.
It could have been a failed physical with the back surgery, but there has been nothing on it. And that contract, honestly, I think when he saw everyone else getting paid and then his contract, he was probably did a 180 and was like, I can go get more money somewhere else, because that contract was $435 back to Baltimore. That would have been a huge win for them. He's an all-pro pass rusher coming off injury, but that would have been a steal. And I think simply he just can get more money, and maybe he'll go to like Dallas. I saw they were a name.
A loser for me, aside from the obvious of Jacksonville, is Dallas. They did an awful job managing. They actually just signed Dante Fowler, who's a subpar pass rusher, but played for Dan Quinn in Atlanta. So we'll see if he gets that back. He used to be really good, if you remember him from Jacksonville, and then he ended up with the Rams, and then he was in Atlanta. But they managed their cap terribly. I understand getting rid of Amari Cooper because he has underperformed there, but to lose Randy Gregory the way they lost him because of fine print in the contract, and to extend DeMarcus Lawrence and keep Zeke, those two guys are not guys that have lived up to their contract at all. They've actually held, I think, their sides of the ball back because of the amount of money they make and the lack of production. I don't like this.
I think the Dallas was definitely in on Von Miller. They missed him. They lost Lyle Collins. They missed out on Von Miller. They were in the market for Big Z. We'll see if he goes there. They need a pass rusher. They could have went Ojabo in the first round. That's not happening anymore. So they tagged Schultz. I don't think they extended him yet, right? They have to pay him. They tagged him. They still have to pay him. They're paying him a lot of money this year. And they let go of Cooper. They re-signed Gallup. That's fine. But they definitely did not do anything to make themselves better. And they're probably worse right now as it stands. But they'll still win. Maybe they're the Giants. I have hope for. I don't think they'll win a division. The Eagles will see with their picks. Dallas will still probably win the division, but first round exit again right now. We'll see how they're playing in the season, but I don't know.
It's good thing for the Giants. On the topic of the Giants, just because we're talking about Dallas, I don't think the Giants are good, but
I wouldn't take the division away. I really wouldn't.
I just wouldn't take away the fact that they could win 3 division games, one against each of these teams. Because they could steal one from Dallas.
They really should win both against Washington. They always do.
Dak could get hurt again, and then whose division?
You never know what happens.
You never know. You never know.
That could be said for any division, though.
No, I agree. I'm just saying.
I think
in the eyes of Giants fans.
Obviously, for AFC fans, it's tough, but these divisions go however.
Anything could happen. Like Patrick, I knock on wood. I don't even want to say it, but like something could happen to Patrick Mahomes, and then that whole division becomes a bloodbath between the other 3 teams. So
the reality of a team like the Chiefs too, and a team like Cincinnati, and it went perfect last year for Cincinnati. It's probably not going to go perfect again this year. It went perfect for the Chiefs the last 3 or 4 seasons. Odds are at some point it's not going to work. For at least a year. It's just something that happen that throws a wrench in it. I do want to not to get into a Packers conversation right now because I know we always do it. On the topic of the NFC, I said 2 weeks ago that I'd be shocked if the Packers made the Super Bowl. I'd be shocked if the Packers didn't. I love that Devontae's gone. But either way, NFC, I think that there's just so
I wish I could feel the same way. I do feel good. And They've choked so many times, and now Brady's back.
I think a team like the Giants could win. The Giants could win 6 or 7 games next year with a pretty bad roster if Dable's a good coach. Because that division's not good, and their schedule's not hard by the standard of the NFL.
You play the NFC North. You play the NFC North. That's 3 winnable games. You're not beating Green Bay, probably. Maybe you upset them. I doubt it.
Yeah, same for the Jets. Also play the NFC North.
The Jets also play the NFC North, and that is a win for both teams because Minnesota, Chicago, Detroit, all winnable games. You could be playing a division. The Giants could be playing the AFC West or the AFC North, and the Jets could be playing the NFC West, and it could just be totally different.
If Saleh and Dable really step up by Thanksgiving next year, the teams could be on. All right, if we win 4 of our last 5, we got a really good shot at getting this. They could be in that 500 situation, or maybe a game under 500 by Thanksgiving, where you're like, if our quarterback steps up, don't rule out that 7 seed for us, because I think that the Giants. I don't know, man. I got a good feeling about the Giants in that division.
I do
Not
too.
That they're gonna win
I was saying it the other day.
Giants. I said after Dable got hired, and I'll own it, that the Giants are not going to win more than 3 or 4 games because I just don't. I thought they were going to rip the roster and just gut it, and Shane was going to go into next offseason with like $130 million in cap space and just start going crazy. and they'll hit their draft picks this year. I love Joe Shane so far. I don't know why I have like such an odd sense of confidence in Joe Shane that I never had in Gettleman or McCagnon or Joe Judge. I actually had it because he had that Belichick press conference to start, but I don't know.
It doesn't mean
I got a good feeling about these teams in New York. I just don't have a good feeling that either of them are going to hit the quarterback position. And the Giants are in a weak division, in a weak NFC, and I think the Cowboys are overrated as hell with Mike McCarthy. I don't know. I'm rooting for the Giants in the NFC East this year, man. I'd like to see the Giants win some games in that NFC East because Washington, Philly, and Dallas are just not fun watches for me.
The Giants have been keeping this roster somewhat competitive for the offseason, and they signed the 2 linemen, and they signed Ricky Seals-Jones at tight end. They let go Ingram. I thought that was a fine move. Not game-changing, but I thought it was a good move. It's tough to see them trading Barkley after making all the other moves, like keeping Shepard. And I don't know if they're going to keep Bradbury. We'll see. But they definitely still could deal Bradbury, deal Barkley, and possibly suck next year. But I am optimistic for the Giants, honestly. And the roster's not even that bad. Like they're paying a lot of guys, but next year they're going to have a ton of cap space. So if it goes south this year, you move off Barkley, you move off Jones, you have $100 million cap space, and you probably have another premium pick.
Yeah, and watching the G-Men this year, just as a Jets fan, they're always in every game.
Until Daniel Jones was out.
Yeah. We don't even talk about that. Yeah, that's like Jets in the NBA. But just don't even think about it.
Judge had already lost that team. They lost that team.
They were in games. There was one game that perfectly describes the Giants the last few seasons was when they played the now Commanders this year. When I believe I don't think I
was
watched
a Thursday
that
night game.
Yeah, but I remember they blew it. Yeah, they blew it.
The week 2 game kind of set the week. I don't know if it was week 2, but the Thursday night game versus Washington definitely set the tone.
Yeah,
on how things are going to go.
They're always right there. I really don't think they're too far away.
Just like that Giants.
I will say, I think the reason they were in a lot of games, I thought Patrick Graham did such a good job with the Giants last few years. That's a big loss. I don't think Winks is good.
Of the time.
I think Wink's a good D coordinator, but Wink did a lot less with a lot more in Baltimore.
Yeah. So, I mean, are you talking about last year? Because they were insanely banged up last year.
No, Baltimore was devastated with injuries. But the last few years, his defense has had the talent. Marlon Humphrey, they added Calais Campbell, guys like Ngakoue have come through. They always have a Mosley, Judon, Zadarius Smith type of guy. They have Patrick Queen now. It just never felt like. Did you ever turn on a Ravens game? You're like, man, this defense is just over. Like, this is a good defense. I drafted Patrick Graham's defense in fantasy last year. Like, I had confidence in Patrick Graham's defense. If the offense was good, I thought it would have been a lot better because they were on the field the whole game. I think Wink's now if they hit the personnel for Wink's system,
I really do.
Wink's definitely solid. He's top 20 coordinator in the league, and we'll see if he's better. But I don't know. I love Patrick Graham. I thought he did such a good job.
And now he's in Vegas. So
now he's in Vegas.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's a nice move. He's gonna have his hands full in that division, but he's got pieces on that end. They have 2 elite pass rushers. They really do.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to touch? NFL free agency, NFL trades, or do we want to start moving into baseball now?
No, we can move into baseball.
We get Lenny on here.
Yeah. We'll probably take half the time on baseball because we're going.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of stuff happened in the NFL since we last. We didn't even talk about all of it. Probably could spend another 20 minutes on Brady, but who wants to do that, honestly?
Yeah.
Because I am done talking about him.
Bucks had a good free agency too.
I mean, they were going to win.
But they only had one. Everybody. Yeah, they only had a good one because Tom.
That franchise was going so south again this year. Until Brady came out of not even out of nowhere. I'm sure a lot of people saw this coming, but Arians they were gonna probably get exposed this year, and they would not have half the free agents that they did with Brady.
What's up, Lenny?
Lenny.
Oh, I can't hear you.
Cannot hear you.
You're the big one.
No, nope. I can't hear you. Just leave and join back. It'll work. It does for me. So Yankees, Mets, That's what we're going to be really touching on here.
Freeman?
We did. Freddie Freeman went to the Dodgers. Tough blow for Mets. Yankees got lucky because the Rays offered him, I think, the same contract. And Boston was in on him. Yankees were out on him. Seemed like he really never had any interest in playing for the Yankees. So I think Cashman backed out and decided to go to Rizzo pretty quick. Yankees traded Luke Voit today. A lot to talk about.
Did you see the way they structured that Freeman contract? Like he gets paid until 2040. So
it's
it's like spread out in some way from 2028 to 2040. He'll get paid. So after he's done playing, he'll still get paid for another 10, 12 years.
And the payroll hit.
That pushed. Yeah, no, I think they still pay a large chunk because that pushed the Dodgers payroll. I think over 290 now. I think it is. I saw on.
You guys hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Welcome. Yeah, so we're talking Freddie Freeman right now, Len.
Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, not a Yank.
Our lost son, who I hate Freddie Freeman now. You don't want to play for the Yankees. Come on, man. No, I'm kidding.
That's tough.
Dodgers. He comes from the Dodgers. I like Rizzo. It's not like they end up getting absolutely shafted here.
Yeah.
Because I mean Rizzo's a good player. Rizzo puts the ball in play. He has good at bats. He's a good fielder. So let's talk about Yankees or Mets. Who's got the better chance?
I had a question for you, Yanks fans. What's the ideal starting lineup? Including any moves you want to make past
that's
right
tough
now.
For me right now because like Torres and LeMahieu are in this limbo together. Who's going to play second base?
I'm assuming it's LeMahieu, right?
Len, you give more thought to the lineup.
I'm going to say right now, I'd have to say DJ LeMahieu is going to be a utility guy. I think Gleyber Torres is going to be your starting second baseman as of right now. I just think. You guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. Well, I just think I think right now I'd probably have to say would be.
Hold up.
You got some noise going on right now.
We'll
mute that. Let's see. Yeah, it's gone now. Jesus.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Headphones in a blender? Yeah, I don't know. It's still going.
It's definitely like rubbing on your table or something. Just hold the mic up.
Let's see. So I'd say I think right now it probably. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's still going.
I don't know.
Jesus Christ!
What a scene right now.
Big Rise hearing little rumblings.
So I'd probably say right now, probably Rizzo would be your leadoff hitter at 1, playing first base. Judge would be playing right field. Playing second, playing right field.
Sucks, man.
I don't think it's that bad. I really don't think it's that bad.
No, it's good. It's good. Come on, LeMahieu has earned second base.
Yeah,
Torres,
I agree.
I don't care that the guy can't play
shortstop. When the Yanks play well, it's when DJ's
Come on.
I told you now.
Has earned this spot.
The stats for Torres at second base, I think it really makes a difference.
The stats for Torres at second and the stats for DJ as a Yankee, DJ's a better player.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. DJ LeMahieu is a better player. It's just I don't think they're going to move on from Torres this year. And I mean, it could change. He could get moved.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to get moved, but man, like I don't like LeMahieu.
I feel like DJ should play. Yeah, I feel like he's got to be in the lineup.
What really should happen is Stanton's got to be playing the outfield, and then you put Judge or Gallo in center, and then you can play DJ as the DH or Donaldson or somebody.
Yeah, Stanton should play the outfield.
I think he should. Yeah. So why isn't
that's Stanton a real? We've talked about this before. That's a real situation of DH or in the field affects how you hit because you're not just sitting around in the dugout the whole time thinking about the terrible at bat you just had. But man, I do not want to see Gleyber Torres over DJ LeMahieu every day. What I think is going to happen with DJ is one of the 4 infielders are going to get a rest day every day.
Yeah.
He's going to play that person's lineup spot. And if Kiner Falefa is taking a rest day, Torres is going to play shortstop. I don't care that you can't hit there. If we're giving our shortstop a rest day, you're going over to shortstop. He'll play shortstop maybe 20 times this year out of 162. But I think he's going to find himself at shortstop a few times.
Yeah.
Still, Rizzo is a good leadoff hitter. He's good. It's just so unorthodox, like Ryan just said. So who do we think? Yankees or Mets? Better chance at the World Series here. We saw the Mets won, I believe, 77, 78 games last year. And the Yankees won 93, but the Mets are, out of every team in the league, had the biggest offseason, biggest improvements. Their biggest move was getting Showalter to be the manager, and they're going with the true old school manager, real baseball, which I love. Buck, he's awesome. They added Scherzer, Marte, Escobar, you name it, with the next Mets spring training lineup.
It's got to be the
really
Mets,
good
right?
today, but that's not even going to be the final lineup. They added Bassett in the trade. Who is a better team, Mets or Yankees here? Who do you, if you were to place a bet based on you just need a winner for the World Series, who would it be?
For me, it would be the Mets because I think situationally, like if we even go past the roster, situationally, I think we have a better chance of winning our division. I think we have a better. The only thing I'd consider with the Mets being a real problem is beating the Dodgers to actually get to the World Series. I think that's obviously going to be our biggest task to get over. But I think in the situation the Mets are in, they are the best bet to win the World Series.
Yeah, and just not even like bias, like. We're Mets fans. You guys are KB and Big Lonnie are Yankees fans, but it's just the rotation, and that's the end of the story. I agree. Like the Yankees, I could see the Yankees going farther than the Mets because the Mets have notoriously come up short every year. I think it's different. I still think they're missing one piece in the lineup. I've been very vocal about that. I think they need one more bat. But if anything, if Dom and Cano suck this year, and you got to go get a bat at the deadline, I think they will. Rotation's awesome. So realistically, you get DeGrom and Scherzer to the playoffs healthy. I really think that the Mets have a better chance, but the Yankees are going to be in the playoffs. And
yeah, absolutely.
While they didn't get worse, they got better probably. 5-6 they probably don't win the division, but they'll be there. And that's why I guess you can say the Yanks because you know that they're going to be in the playoffs. And the Mets, you never know. I think it's different because they have Buck, and I think Dom bounces back. But you're counting on a lot of guys to bounce back, like McNeil and Dom.
It feels like the whole Mets team has to bounce back besides DeGrom.
It seems
that's
like
really all it is.
It seems like the lineup's still missing something, but the rotation is good enough. I think that give the Mets the edge over the Yankees.
I think
I'm interested to hear what you guys have to say about the situation.
I do think I'll go first, and then Len, you take off. So my two thoughts on this are. Do I take anyone over healthy Scherzer and DeGrom in the playoffs? I don't. But Mets didn't win over 80 games last year. They lineup was terrible last year. I think it improved. I expect it to improve. But until I see it, I can't say. But I still give them a better chance at the World Series because the Yankees team that is out there right now has a shot at it. But if the Mets go the way I see them going, then they have the better shot. But until that, I don't know. I just can't be. It's one of those things. I have to see it before I'm confident in it. I have to see this lineup actually hit.
Yeah.
And I think I will say to you guys, though, that my one knock on most Mets fans, I don't know if I'm speaking specifically to the two of you, is the thoughts on this being an easy division. You have the World Series defenders in the division, the defending champs, and they're only going to be better. The Braves are going to win 95 games.
I think the Braves are great, but
they don't lose anything with Freeman. They lose a leadership role and that loyalty legend type of thing in the locker room because he was that. But Olsen's just as good of a player. Maybe a little worse, but you don't lose anything with Freddie Freeman. I think the Phillies are going to put together a lineup that gives teams a tough time. They're not going to compete for the division like the Mets will, but I think the division's actually pretty good, and the Braves are still my favorite in that division until beaten. Same thing with Tampa Bay with the Yankees. I don't think the Yankees got significantly better to say they're in the same situation as the Mets, but it's just one of those things. The Braves have been great, and they're going to be better. They're going to be better than they were last year, and they won the World Series last year.
Yeah, for the Mets, they need to get off to a hot start because we start off playing the D-backs and the Nats. Acuna's also not going to be back for that first month, so that is our chance.
Acuna might be DHing for the first month, though. He might not miss a game.
Yeah. I don't know how he's how well.
Yeah, the Braves are not. The Braves are not a worse team. They're definitely a good team.
Yeah, I don't think. Champs. I think there's those two, and there's a big gap between us, the Mets, Braves, and then you go.
I even think the Phillies are definitely inching the gap. They're definitely closing the gap.
The Nats and Marlins suck. So let's
those guys can't.
The Phillies, if they sign Castellanos, and they really got my attention, but for some reason, and they are better too. The Phillies, they just never like it. Just I don't know. I'm
just
not
the Phillies.
But it's definitely a team that it's not like when you play Tampa or not Tampa. It's not like for the Yankees when you play Baltimore or when you play Miami or Washington where it's like we have to sweep this series or you have if you don't win 3 of 4 or 2 of 3, that's just really bad week for you guys. the Phillies will win a series here and there against the Mets and the Braves because they'll be able at home in Philly, they'll be able to mash against anyone because if they get Castellanos,
that ballpark is insanely small.
And Rhys Hoskins is becoming a Met killer slowly.
Yeah. And they have Kyle Schwarber, so
they have the reigning MVP.
And Harper. Yeah.
You can lock in 10 home runs just against the Mets this year for Kyle Schwarber. I mean, that is a given. He is going to tank us, especially in that ballpark. So, yes, the Phillies got better. I'm definitely not worried about Washington and Miami. But the last two World Series winners have come out of the NL East, and it has not been the Mets. So their division is definitely better than a lot of people give it credit for. But the Braves are the Kings, and then the Mets and Phillies are both going to try to catch him. Not too worried about Philly, but I do agree, KB. I think that it's a good division. It's fine.
It is. It's good. Is it the AL East? No, because the AL East just has 4 teams right now trying to win a World Series. The AL East
has 4 good teams in the Orioles.
So let's talk AL East now. Are the Yankees the 4th best team in the AL East? And Len, I'll let you start with this one. How do you think the AL rosters and teams stack up with each other?
I'd say right now, I think we're between. I think the Rays are definitely 1. And I think it's either us or the Blue Jays at 2. I really think the Blue Jays have been great, but they lost Semien. They lost Robbie Ray. I know they got Matt Chapman, but Matt Chapman
added
Semien.
Their rotation top to bottom, I think is better than it was last year.
It's best in the AL, yeah. But Goldsman is also a 1-year wonder. Kikuchi at the end of the year had a 6 ERA. And Matt Chapman he bets like 250. I don't know.
I'll tell you right now. Kikuchi's going to walk into Fenway Stadium and Yankee Stadium and get Fenway Park and Yankee Stadium. He's going to get absolutely rocked.
He's not going to beat a divisional opponent.
He's going to get shelled in Camden. That's a bad signing for the division games. Good depth pitcher. I wish the Yankees would have gone after him. I think he's a good 5. But
I think so.
So you have interesting. I think, and I'm open to everyone's opinion. I think Toronto is very good. I think Toronto at their best. I think we're the 4th best team in the division, and we could win 92 games, and be the 4th place team. I think Boston is in competition with Tampa for the best team because Cora is so good. Cora is with Boston. Alex Cora is just an MVP type of coach. They got back to where they were in 2019 last year. In 2018, 2017, they won the World Series. Or 2018, they won the World Series. So I thought they were right back to it. A healthy Chris Sale. Boston is really good. But Rye, exactly in the comments here, division's a toss-up. If Josh Donaldson comes out and has a better year than the top free agents that we were looking at, that we wanted, which is possible at a place like Yankee Stadium, then the Yankees could win this division. Until the Rays lose, it's the Rays division, like I said before. Boston, I think, is so tough with Alex Cora. And with a healthy Eovaldi and Sale, they have a pretty good rotation there. Toronto loses Semien, big production loss in the lineup. He was their best player last year, tied with Vlad for best production on the team. I thought Semien could have legitimately beat out Ohtani for MVP last year. I think Ohtani was a lot of hype, but a great player still, don't get me wrong. All 3 deserved the MVP award last year. Not how it works. Robbie Ray lost, but JD, I agree with you. Better staff. What do you guys think as Mets fans? How does this division stack up? Obviously, Baltimore and 5. Who are those top 4?
Yeah, I think it definitely can go 4 ways. I see Big Ry saying in the comments. I think, unfortunately, the Yankees winning the division is the least likely of the 4 next to Toronto. But I don't know. It's such a tough division. I think hard. The Yankees ceiling is 2nd best team, and they could be the 4th best team. And that will probably get you in the playoffs, honestly. Being the 4th best team in that division, you still win 90 games. You beat who you're supposed to beat, and you can get in. I'm fairly certain that the Yankees will be in the playoffs. I think all 4 of those teams can get in, though, especially with the new playoff format. I love the new playoff format. It's just like the old NFL style. First 2 teams get a bye, and then you play the best of 3 in the wild card round. I love that. And I would love to see all 4 of the AL East teams in the playoffs because I think all 4 of those teams, while the Rays and the Red Sox, they have great coaches, and the Rays have won a lot of games over the last few years, and the Red Sox are the Red Sox. The Blue Jays offense is just awesome to watch, and the Yankees are the Yankees. You get home games in the Bronx, and it's electric. So
Yeah.
I honestly think the Yankees are 2-4. I think they could be the second best team, third best team, fourth best team. But either way, I'm excited to watch them this year in the regular season and in the playoffs. Both teams, all 4 teams.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't say there's a solidified top 1 through 4. Obviously, I would have the Rays at 1. I think I would probably put the Blue Jays at 2 right now, and then Yanks, and then Red Sox. That's always just how I felt. But I know the Red Sox and the Yankees can easily overtake the Jays on a good year. So it really depends who plays well, who has up years, who has down years in this division specifically.
More moves coming for the Yanks, though. What do we think from Big Rye?
I think, and Len, I think will agree with me, but I'll let him talk about it more than I will. I think they'll definitely get one of the ace pitchers, but other than that, I'm not sure what they'll do. I hope they do something a little bigger for maybe a cheap player that I don't think they're going to go for big money guys like Donaldson was the big money guy, but we'll see what they do. Len, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's definitely more moves. I think I saw somewhere that I think they are very interested in Montas over Manaea.
Yeah,
and I saw they think they like the catcher.
Because Montas has the control.
Yeah, Montas has the control. Is a little younger, so I mean, but I know I saw Andy Martino saying yesterday that they are still on Correa, at least interested, and you never know with Cashman. You really don't know what's going on with the Yankees ever. I don't think it's going to happen, but I mean,
if they get Correa, then you're probably swinging a trade with your infielders.
Yeah, I think
yes.
if they were to get
Torres
Correa,
is definitely gone.
Torres would get moved. LeMay would go to second, and IKF would be the utility guy.
Yeah, IKF can play all 8 positions aside from pitcher, so.
I don't think Correa is likely, but I think he'll end up with the Astros. Yeah. But I saw earlier today people saying that they don't know if that's even that likely anymore.
Who even knows if he's
very far apart? I think also I don't think Correa will be signed before the season starts. I think he's gonna wait until he gets his money, and he might have to wait until the midseason, or not midseason, but
who
like
even knows?
10 games, and still might not get in. Just have to take a deal with somebody for 1 year. And then reset it next year. But I think there definitely are more moves to come. I mean, they shipped out Voit today. I know they didn't really get what I would have liked. I would have liked maybe a kid pitcher that could pitch now, even if he was a 4 or 5 or early bullpen guy. But they did get a top 10 prospect from the Padres. So we'll see. And Voit didn't really have a spot, but I definitely think more moves are coming.
Len, do you like the way he navigated Brian Cashman? Because we have at the bottom here, so chime in. Did Yankees GM Brian Cashman fail this offseason? I think a lot of people expected a lot more big-name improvement than they got. I like the players they got to improve the lineup. They definitely got better with the Twins trade. But, Len, do you think the Freddie Freeman situation was navigated properly, or do you think the Yankees should have gone full overpay for Freddie Freeman to try to get him to be interested in playing for the Yankees?
I don't know if I would have. I mean, I would have definitely given him what the Dodgers gave him, maybe even more. But it just looks like he didn't have an interest in playing here, so I don't really blame that. And I think the players they really got, they eliminated. They're getting less strikeouts and more. I think more defensive guys, and I think I kind of like that approach. We already have our home run hitters and Judge, Stanton, Gallo. I think we need more of the guys that are going to hit the contact. Run the bases a little bit and can play really good defense, which we didn't have last year at short. And even at third, Donaldson statistically is a better third baseman than Gio Urshela when he's healthy. So we'll see.
Donaldson's going to mash.
Yeah.
Donaldson's going to
mash.
Yeah,
he's going to be.
Donaldson's. I really think Donaldson could be a 40 home run hitter for the Yankees this year. I know that's probably biased playing into that, but I don't know. I got a feeling that he's just going to rake at Yankee Stadium this year. He's got the personality for it too. He's such a passionate,
he fits New York,
angry type of guy, but good, like media. He's just a cutthroat dude. I don't know. I got a good feeling about this move.
I didn't even. Oh, you can go, Judy.
No, you go, Big Line.
Oh, I didn't even know. I was looking up some stats and stuff. Donaldson was the 2019 Comeback Player of the Year. I didn't know that with the Atlanta Braves. 2019, he really good 49 ABs. He had 145 hits, 37 bombs, and a 900 OPS with a 260 batting average.
And then he signed the big deal.
DB18 record saying AL MVP. Look at that pro pick. That thing's sweet. Hot take here. We could be coming back to this end of September. Donaldson just hit 315, 48 homers. DPT on the show on the GBU pod Friday night. Late in September, early October. Yanks are the 1 seed after getting carried. We traded Judge at the deadline because we have our guy now in Donaldson. This is possible according to DP18 records. Big hot take. DP18 records. Who is the NL MVP then? And
I already
it
know
has
who
to
this
be.
answer
It has
is.
to be Escobar at this rate. Like comparison of
we know who he's gonna say.
Robbie
player.
It's Robbie. But Judge extension. Speaking of Judge, that's got to get done now. I'm assuming it's got to get done. There's no way.
It will.
There's no way they let this go into the season. Honestly.
Jeff McNeil.
Did you say McNeil
From Higgs?
Acuna
from
Acuna.
That's a hot take,
right now,
DPT. Hot take.
That's boring.
His two MVP favorites are 36-year-old Josh Donaldson with the Yankees and Ronald Acuna, who I think is the favorite right now, but coming off of an Achilles tear. So
maybe
we
he
have
just knows more than we do. That's just
Drew definitely has a source that told him something else. But I want to say one thing that came to my attention yesterday. If you heard the Hal Steinbrenner press conference at spring training, there was more talk about Steve Cohen than there was about the Yankees.
Yeah.
So we all know how George Steinbrenner was with the Mets. He hated the Mets more than absolutely anyone on the planet. Hated the Mets. So is it crazy to me that Hal Steinbrenner goes through that press conference and 5 hours later we're reportedly back in on Correa? I'm not saying it's the truth, but that's not an insane thing to think about, that he really got hounded by the reporters. And I think he's giving Brian Cashman the funds to make this happen, and Cashman hasn't done the best job with it the last 2 seasons. I don't think Steinbrenner's actually holding back from going over the taxes, but I think he might be pushing a button here that says, you know what, I'm tired of this. And a little bit of his dad's coming out. If they got Correa, that's my 2 cents on it.
That would be electric because I think New York needs that.
That'd be
total just spend war between Steinbrenner and Cohen, and I don't know. I think the Yankees have spent. Their payroll is creeping higher and higher. It's all about, did you spend and allocate your money on the right guys? And like, because Rizzo is 16 a year, and that's real good for 2 years. I think that's a fine contract. But it's going to bump your payroll up, and it's going to inch you closer to the tax.
I still think, I really have thought this the last few years, and this is not a praise on the. So the Dodgers did jump us with the Freddie Freeman contract. So we're 3rd in the league in payroll right now at 235, but I think this is on Spot Track. I think all of these numbers should be higher because the Mets at 249.
The Mets are 286 right now.
Yeah, so these numbers should be higher. I think the Yankees are around 260.
The Dodgers have crept closer to 290. I'm not sure if they passed the 290 tax yet.
Yeah, so anyways, I think that this team, I'm just going to say it, I think that the last 5 years, they've been the most talented team in the American League. They have not performed. That's not praising the Yankees team. It's not. It's the opposite. They have not performed. They've absolutely underperformed. They've been underwhelming. Big moments, their 5 through 9s really have not shown up since 2017. I don't know. I haven't felt it well. And on paper, this is the best roster talent-wise in the MLB. Lenny, I want to hear your thoughts on that, if you agree.
Yeah, I definitely agree. When this lineup is, or even the team in general, when it's full go, I mean, it's a completely operational Death Star. I mean, it's fucking let's roll. But there is
evil empire.
My only concern is that I know Freeman, these guys would be great and really help us. But we have a lot of what ifs on this team. If Judge and Stanton stay healthy, if Gallo doesn't strike out so much, if Torres is back, if DJ is back, if we get everyone besides Cole to pitch well. I mean, there's a lot of what if Donaldson
they did last year.
Healthy.
Yankees were 5th in ERA last year. So
yeah, they were. Their staff is very underrated, and we're getting Severino back. So.
They just had those collapses, like one random night, like a few random nights in like June and July. It was just like, they just
Chapman,
blew it again.
Aroldis Chapman and Zach Britton really took us out of a lot of games in the 9th inning, which was bad managing by Boone because he kept putting them in. There were times that Chapman just should have had a week off from pitching, which is not a thing that like is out of question for bullpen pitchers. If they're struggling, give them a couple days off and let them get back into the right headspace. Britton, the Field of Dreams game is the one that I know everyone will remember because everyone watched that. Yeah. I remember saying in the 8th inning, I don't know if it was in a group chat with most of us or just with me, Len, and Rye, that we were going to take the lead in the top of the 9th, but Britton was going to blow it because I already saw him warming up. That was just a lock because it was Boone's incompetent managing continuing to put these guys in the game. So that took us out of a lot of games last year. When you got a guy like Loizaga, that can just – that's where I fault Cashman. That's why I think Cashman should have been gone because this coaching staff and the developmental staffs at AAA and the MLB are not good coaching staffs. But it is what Boone took us out of a lot of games, a lot of collapses last year because of his bullpen decisions.
The one that I remember, KB, is that Angels marathon with the rain delay. That was the one
Ohtani pitch, and I woke up. I went to sleep during that rain delay. Leniak stayed up, as they do.
Yeah, as they do.
And I woke up with a text. It's one of my favorite stories from last year. I woke up with a text at about 8 o'clock in the morning. The only notification on my phone was Len saying, "KB, don't check your phone." Don't check your phone. And I
woke up. The
game never should have been played again.
We've played 5 innings.
Ohtani pitched that game, and he was still pitching really well at that point in the season, and he got through 2 outs. And it was like, all right, this is an awesome game for the Yankees.
Bundy grew up the next day. Bundy was just yakking on the mound.
Yeah. What a series. My God.
The Angels are a team, man. They have they done anything in free agency? They signed what? Did they sign? Who signed to?
I thought they were going to go after Correa.
The Angels have made some moves, but
how do we think weirdest signing of the whole thing is Bryant to the Rockies. It seemed pretty clear the whole time, but it was just odd.
It's bizarre.
I always thought he was using. I definitely was convinced he was using the Rockies as a tool to drive up his price from Philly. But
I said so, JD. I had said, who was it that was? It was like I think it was Chandler Jones. I sent a thing in, and it was Chandler Jones and the Jets' interest. And I said, definitely leverage. And you said, just like how the Rockies, just like how Chris Bryant's using the Rockies right now. And I thought the same thing. And I thought there was no way he was going there. Do we so the question here, Giants won 107 games last year, record season for the franchise, best team in the MLB. Their over-under, we talked about last week, is at 85 wins this year. They lost Bryant. They added Jock Peterson. They added Carlos Rodon, lost Gossman. Does this team, 1, win over 85 games? 2, do they compete with the Padres and the Dodgers, healthy Padres, for that division this year?
I think they win 90 games. The Posey loss sucks, but I don't think they compete like they did this. Maybe San Diego maybe
the Dodgers are ridiculous.
The Padres underachieved last year, so they could again this year. I don't know. I think they'll be a little bit better, but they're definitely not competing with the Dodgers. That playoff series last year, and the playoffs were great last year for the MLB, which was why the lock, because it seemed like it was going in such a good direction. That Dodgers-Giants series was awesome. It really was. Unfortunately, they're not the same team. They lost Posey. I don't think that accounts for 20 wins with the over-under, but I definitely don't think they're as good as last year, and I don't think they compete with the Dodgers or the Padres, honestly.
I feel like having Posey back there for those pitchers was a big thing, though.
Yeah,
I don't. He definitely played a big part. Yeah, it's just
their pitchers were insane. Like their pitchers were insane last year.
And I'm sure
Bolden Webb played a large part of that. Year, man. And DeSclafani, they got a good pitching staff. Webb, Rodon,
San Diego has Melvin. It's a big ride. Yeah, San Diego's got a real good manager now.
San Diego's gonna be good. So for the Mets here, the NL is much more competitive with this 16 format than the AL is as far as getting into the postseason goes, because you're gonna have division winners. So you're going to have the Cardinals or the Cubs, a team like that from that division. I mean, that division sucks, but one of those teams are going to get a seed. Then you're going to have San Diego, the Dodgers, and I just got a text from Higgs that Arizona's on an upset watch in NCAA, so we will talk about that in a minute. But I got to see the score of that. Higgs, text me the score. So the Mets have to compete with Atlanta. The Phillies is a bottom-level team of that wildcard race. But Atlanta, San Diego, Dodgers, Giants, winner of the NL Central. So that's 7 teams right there. Much more competitive, I think, than the AL, where you get those AL East teams and then the Astros and White Sox, and then maybe the Rangers this year you could throw in there. And then you have Seattle and Oakland, and those teams are they're probably not going to get it. So the NL, I think, just for a Mets perspective, is a really competitive one.
Yeah, you're going to have those NL Central teams. One team will win the division, and the rest will be battling for the wild card spots, whatever. But yeah, I think the Mets should make the NL playoffs. I'm not they have surprised me before and have sucked miserably like last year. With Buck, it's a bit different. I think they're a much better team. But yeah, you never know. The NFC is loaded. And KBI checked the Arizona score. They're up by 10 at the start of the half. So I don't know what Higgy.
So he's joking.
They were up when I checked. It was 50-42 with 15 minutes in the second half. So, Illinois is down on Illinois.
I have Creighton in my bracket because I watched Rutgers beat the doors off Illinois this year. Big Rutgers fan this season. Very upset. Mm-hmm. Double overtime loss to Notre Dame. Yeah. Tragic last week, 3 days ago. But okay, Higgy just said it. Arizona 52-44. Arizona, but Wright State got that momentum. Come on. Don't tell me upset watch, because Wright State's got that momentum. I had Creighton in that bracket. They better win that. Up by 2 on Illinois right now. 5:57 left in the second half. I turned on if there was no risk of this getting taken down, so I turned on right behind me. But very strict with the copyright issues on March Madness is something I found out. You cannot do any secondary coverage of March Madness. If you turn on ESPN, there's no clips from any game that is not theirs from March Madness because they have no rights.
They're on
CBS and Warner Media, so TNT and everything, give absolutely no secondary rights because I was listening to Boomer and Gio the other day. We know Jerry Recco on Boomer and Gio. He does the update, and he's third guy there. He commentates Rutgers radio. So they had that game the other day, and they were talking about how they cannot get the clips. Every time he does Rutgers, they grab his best clips and play it on the show the next day. You cannot get any secondary clips or show any video of March Madness games you don't have the rights to, which is a pretty, unfortunate thing.
I didn't know that, really.
That's crazy.
He just texted me, Wright State, 0 momentum now. Wright State, 0
momentum. I think I want to touch on not touch on March Madness, but you started posting your picks yesterday, and they were pretty good. I don't know much about March Madness, but
it ended up not going too.
It ended up. We checked a lot of the games while they were close, and I was like
3-0.
It's like, oh shit! I thought that was gonna be like 3-0, 4-0.
KB, I don't know if you saw New Mexico State. I put them at -6.5 instead of +6.5, and they still covered.
Oh, yeah, they still
covered, dude.
They still
covered. They did?
They won by 7. Yeah, they were 6-point dogs.
I thought best bet yesterday. I don't put anything on March Madness or on anything.
No, I don't either. I don't know.
I thought best bet yesterday was Indiana +3. They lost by 25.
I had Indiana winning in my bracket.
Speaking of picks, I think soon, once MLB free agency is over, I think me and Reese are going to do a lock it in where we'll go over all of the over and unders, division odds and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe even sprinkle on some MVPs and the awards and stuff. So that should be fun. We could do that too. Yeah. We could do that too for the NFL, but the NFL's we got a bit because there's all of the drafts and then May, June, July. You don't really start talking about that stuff till August. So
yeah, I definitely
a lot of time for that.
Definitely want to get a draft betting episode in as well. Got some good lines.
Yeah, draft. I tell you that number one pick. If you're betting, intriguing one to bet for some fun on draft night. If you have some confidence in one of Hutchinson, Ekwonu, or Neal or Thibs, not out of the realm of possibility. Sprinkle it because any of those guys can go at that first pick. Maybe I'd recommend sprinkle
is almost -500 right now, so it's
I'd sprinkle it now on one of the other 3 because on one of Ekwonu or Neal, just because I think maybe Hutch.
I think Ekwonu might end up the first. I think Ekwonu might end up the first O-line drafted. I really do.
I think he will be.
But
unless Houston trades Laramie Tunsil. But yeah, I need Chattanooga to beat Illinois, man. Come on. Okay.
Let's
way.
see. Hutchinson
anyone?
Right
so there's 2 perfect brackets left. Anyone here got them?
Definitely not
me. Definitely not me. Farthest from. But Hutchinson's plus.
Coach K go out with that win last night. I don't think so. But
we've got KB and Reese and Miguel Hutchinson plus 135, first overall pick. Thibs plus 160. Evan Neal plus 275 and Ekwonu plus 500. So that's
what app are you using?
Dude, I was on FanDuel. I must have had something mixed up.
This one is I mean, they're all different on each.
Dude, there's a lot of lines I liked. Ekwonu under 4.5 is a lot.
Well, now see, like this one, I see Hutchinson. Now I see on this one minus 250.
Stu Feiner, best bets. Stu loses every week.
Best bets.
Stu has the worst bets. I mean, this guy.
Here we go. I haven't.
How many times could he take the Jets in a single season to cover? My God.
Yeah, wow. I mean, that's a mistake.
This I have better. Thibs is plus 15. So this one probably is more accurate. Hutchinson minus 250. Neal plus 550. Ekwonu plus 750. Thibs plus 1,500. That is like, I know Thibs is probably not going one, but
that's worth a $10 sprinkle.
Yeah, even like $2-3. Like,
I do it too now because if he hits his pro day and they love what they see, that's going to quickly change.
Yeah, I wanted to do Hutchinson. I wanted to do Hutchinson like a long time ago. I just never got to it for whatever reason. Couldn't find it, but it's still not bad value.
I'll never forget JD in week probably 10 of last year. It's like who the betting odds for NFL MVP? It was at week 10 of 2020, so 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was Rodgers was like 5th, and you just were replying to kids. Rodgers is free money, idiot. Rodgers is free money. Rodgers is free money. Rodgers for the next 6 weeks had the greatest stretch in NFL history.
Yeah. And I don't think the last 2 years I just had that feeling, but now it's like now without Devontae, you got to assume someone else.
I feel like Rodgers' touchdowns are going to go down a little bit running the ball more.
He's going to be Aaron Rodgers. It's not going to be the MVP production that's going to beat out Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen or Lamar.
And the Packers might be even better on. I don't know.
I think they'll be a better playoff team.
I agree. I think they're going to thread in the playoffs now.
They'll win 12 games. Their schedule is not incredibly tough. They play the NFC East and the AFC East, who have the Bills and the Pats, but the Jets, they might play the Jets or Giants in London. They're supposed to play in Atlanta. That would be bizarre if we played.
No, Jets are not playing. I don't want to play overseas.
Yeah, come on.
The Packers.
That shit. So
we signed a contract. Woody Johnson sucks.
Yeah,
we signed a contract to be like
Woody
the UK's
UK
team.
Or like
come on, Mangold's the ambassador.
It's
Mangold is at every.
Jets.
Mangold's a god. He's at every Jets game, doing tailgating, representing his barbecue sauce.
He's great.
He's a legend.
And he cooks for fans with. Now that he's the UK ambassador, he's always got UK flags everywhere, like the flag with it's got the cross. And he's always got those on the back of his pickup, and he's always wearing like a bandana with it on. What a guy! That's the only positive that came from us playing in London every other year. Woody Johnson sucks. Come on,
right.
Steve Cohen's got to throw like a $6-7 billion bid.
We've been saying that it's just about it as a joke, but God,
Bezos, Musk. Come on, we're making good money. Save, do some charity work. Come on.
I hope you fellas are ready. 9 a.m. next year on one of those weeks. Packers Jets in London. 9 a.m.
Take the G-men this time. That would really soil for you guys because you want to go to that game.
Yeah, we want to go to that game. So
it doesn't look too good if it's in London.
No, maybe we'll get Tennessee in London. That's the.
I don't know. For the Jets, are the Jets like a candidate for it after playing there last year? I guess you can year.
The three, I'm pretty sure it was Jets, Giants, Titans in London for the Packers.
This is the year, though, man. You got the Bucks and the Packers in London. Give them their best road opponents.
The Bucks?
Enough of Jacksonville, Jets, Miami, Jets, Atlanta. Enough of this.
Jacksonville's getting a London game. I'm pretty sure, like they always do.
I think they get one every year because Shaq Khan wants to move them there.
But
yeah,
the Bucks are going to Germany. Aren't the Bucks going to Germany?
Bucks are going to Germany.
DPT.
Last year, the two overseas games was Jacksonville, Miami, and Jets, Falcons. Those are terrible games. You want to grow the game in Europe? You got the Packers and the Bucks there this year. Bucks play the Chiefs because that's a home game for the Bucks. And Packers, I don't know, give them the Titans.
Yeah,
just
please.
DBT 18 says Jets in London, so classic. They get to see a great team.
Yeah,
DBT. The Jets have more fans in London than the Chargers do in their regular stadium, pal.
They do. This is true. The Jets have never played a good team in London. We played Miami in London.
Falcons
and we
year.
Played pre-2 of Miami, so like no Flores is there. We played Gase's Miami in London with Bowles. Ugh. And we played Jacksonville. Terrible. All right, we wrapped here.
Yeah,
approaching 9 o'clock.
We went on a tangent, but
we did.
At the end of the day, we're gonna start doing soon when baseball gets in full swing. We're gonna split them up probably, so we're not doing NFL and baseball.
Yeah, this will be a much different look.
One big video.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. Anyways, as always, they're rumbling again. We're gonna mute that.
Yeah, that's
getting rumblings. Thanks for tuning in. Anyways, thanks for coming, everybody. Len, Reese, JD, and.
Always.
Make sure to subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you didn't see it before, it's at the GBU Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We also do these on Twitter, so you can tune in there as well. Follow to get the notifications for when we're live. And have a good weekend. Hopefully we get some more. Hopefully we get a Jets trade before Sunday with Danielle Hunter and Robert Woods.
That'll be dandy.
At this pace, the whole NFL could be turned upside down by the next time we speak. Because
the NFL,
it is crazy.
By next week, the NFC could be the stacked conference. The way that this league moves around.
Yeah.
All right. See you guys next week.
Yeah.
Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe, everybody. Later.
Yep. Peace.